And in my era, all the kids that grew up with me, there've been 11 deaths. And it was starting going into the factory.
And are you under the lorry?
We're under the wagon. And my first basically friend that committed suicide was a boy, Alan Jackson. He was 11-year-old when I had two friends that had passed away in the same weekend. Same again, suicide. So I was in a car accident where a woman committed suicide and I took her life in my car. She was 32 weeks pregnant as well. My missus was pregnant with my first daughter. And then only April, Erica was born and she never survived. Not a lot of people know this, but in 2020, I tried to take my own life. Drug itself, I don't like to call it a drug. I call it a medicine. So when you hear me, I call it medicine because it's medicine. It's medicine for the soul, the mind. I knew I was going to be taking one of the most potent drugs that's ever been on earth. And I don't know if it's because I've seen Insidious before I went, and this is why the entity came. But the guy, the shadow with the big long claws, it was that was the entity I was getting.
Anyways, mate, thank you so much for coming on, boss. I appreciate it. Cheers.
Much appreciated, mate, Bob. Thanks for having me.
Aye, because I know obviously you're heavy busy and you're working a lot and had the injury and stuff, fell off a roof recently. So obviously I know that loads of people will know who you are, but for anybody that's obviously watching that maybe doesn't know who you are, I just want to give you a quick reintroduction if that's alright.
Aye, no problem.
So you're Scotland's rising BKFC star.
Yeah.
And BKFC stands for obviously Bare Knuckle Fighting Championship.
Yeah.
You're undefeated in it currently.
Yes.
And you're nicknamed the Butcher. Why the Butcher?
So the Butcher comes from before I ventured into BKFC. I was doing a wee bit of underground fighting, as you call it, all over Europe, and we were doing a bit of team fighting. So there would be a group of boys based in Glasgow, travelling all over Europe, teams at 8s, 10s, 12s, and I was basically, because of my physical size and obviously the training I had done in the background, I was like the captain, if you'd like to call it.
Okay.
And that's where we go at the Butcher.
Did you wear an armband?
No,
Did you not?
It was anything like that. It was just, I think it just comes to the mentality I had. Even when you watch me fight the now, to even when I was fighting in the team fights and all that kind of stuff, and I'm a team player as well, and every man on that park or in that field, I had like an obligation to try to look after them, kind of thing. It's just my character, and that's where I go it for. Obviously, the football scene as well, gangs of New York, all that ties in it. My upbringing, the schemes. It all ties into my character, and it was actually one of the football boys that gave me the nickname the Butcher. So it just sticks with us. It's
a fitting nickname, to be fair, for what you're doing and stuff like that as well, mate. It does tie in well to what you're doing, obviously. And I suppose then, so you've not really got much amateur experience in fights then, no? Am I right in saying that?
I'm very, very novice, as you like. I've trained majority of my life. I've been in and about the boxing scene. I've been in and about the MMA scene. I did have a long layoff before I started Bare Knuckle, but I've always been at my happiest. I've always been in and around the gyms. But going into my first Bare Knuckle fight, I was coming off a 9-year layoff, and even at that, my last MMA fight, I wasn't myself in that fight, if that makes sense. I was miles off the boil. I still won the fight, but it's not a good going back there. It's not a good watching that fight and watching who I was at that time isn't good for where I'm at now. Not what I mean.
Yeah. So I suppose then, my question to you would be how does somebody with no amateur fighting experience? I know you've obviously got fighting experience. Mate, how do you become one of the most dangerous people in BKFC so quickly as well, mate? I think that's the really intriguing thing.
I think it all comes down to my belief. when I started this, when I said yes to the John Ferguson fight, and this was before the BKFC, I knew the only way I was taking a bare knuckle fight is if it ticked a few boxes. One, he had to have been a professional, he had to have a lot of experience, and he had to have fought in the BKFC or fighting in the BKFC. And I got that in my first fight. I fought a BKFC veteran who I think he had like 8 or 9 fights in the BKFC. He was well renowned, went to distance with the likes of Danny Mitchell and Danny Moyer. At the time he was ranked number 3 in the UK. And John was like a good, tough opponent. Well, especially for your first bare knuckle fight. So when I got the opportunity to fight John, I jumped on it. And at that time, the first man I reached out with was James Doolan, because obviously if I was going into this and making a career out or going for the big run which I'm on now, I knew I had to have a solid backing, and there's no a man alive I trust more in my life than James Doolan.
See, just a question, is James Doolan the MMA coach?
Yeah, so James Doolan is higher level MMA
and he coaches Sean Clancy?
Yeah,
right, so, okay, because obviously Sean was on the show like last month or anything as well, and
so I trained with James.
Could you move the microphone just a wee bit closer? Thank you so much, man. I appreciate it. Yeah, sorry, on your...
I trained with James when I think I was 16. Yeah, so I trained at the time. James had a small gym in Cairn Wharf. It was nothing but the premises he's got now. It was an old church, and we went in and we were pulling the mats. It was all judo mats, and we had to pull the old judo mats up off the stage, set up the gym.
Yeah.
We would train in there, and then at night we'd put all the mats away.
Aye, so it wasn't like a proper setup at all.
No, but that's where maybe was back then. And through the short space of time I trained with James, like his characteristics shine through. It was very, very detailed in what he does, but most importantly he cares, and that's massive, especially in fighting, you know what I mean, because us as fighters we just go in there and we've got a lack of self-care, if that makes sense. Like, well, I'm willing to go to the depths of hell and put my body, my mind to probably dangerous levels, where at the back of it I've got kids that need a dad around here and that kind of stuff, so I need somebody in that back that I know that can have the trust in, and if he did ever had to make a call, then I knew it's the right man to make the call. It's
so interesting hearing you talk about like it like that, because Sean was the exact same. Like, spoke about him like a father figure and how much he does for him, and obviously the training and the gym. Is it in Bathgate? Or?
Yes, it's in Bathgate.
Yeah.
He's definitely, he's more than a coach. You know what I mean? He's like, even when I drifted away and I was going through a lot of shit in my life, James would pop into my life now and again through Facebook Messenger or a random message, or I'd bump into him at shows, and he always had the time to pull me aside and how you getting on, all that kind of stuff. And just that itself over years, and you're not even in around the fighting scene or that, but he always remembered who I was, and always had that care for us.
Yeah.
And then when I did start back MMA, I went to the Dinkin Ninjas, who was at Dumbarton, and the reason I went there is because at the time they had the guys the same weight class as me. Again, John Nicholson's is the very same type of personality as James, and another great coach that again, when I was going through hard stuff in life, was always there and was always at the end of a phone for us.
Yeah.
So making that decision to go with him I wouldn't have started fighting without him, and I said that to him.
Yeah, he sounds like a proper like living legend, that kind of way. I know I've not met him, but just through the way everybody describes him, obviously, as well.
I'm blessed to have the team I've got, you know what I mean. Through James I've got a great boxing coach in Kieran Smith now as well, you know what I mean, who I do all my stand up with. James oversees everything, and then off the back of James and all, I've got Adam Lumsbury, who's my strength and conditioning coach, and I've got Lee Rickards, who's my boxing science, does all my nutrition. So we're a bulletproof team, and then I've got the gym at a higher level, who's just full of your Sean Clancy's, Stephen Clancy's, your Mark McEwen's, Kai. They're absolute killers, and they're future superstars of Scottish MMA.
He said it's like a brotherhood in the gym, more like, that's what Sean described it as.
It's a very special place, because 9 times out of 10 when you go into a boxing gym or an MMA gym, you've got a group of young guys for the age of 16 to 18 to early 30s, and the gym's full of ego and testosterone, and it can be territorial and dangerous at times, where when you walk into James Doolan's gym, it's a gym of zen, I like to call it. It's cool, calm and collective, but there are killers in there. It's
that's an interesting way to describe it, obviously, like somewhere zen now.
If you watched a documentary, it'd be like watching a cobra going along the sand before it hissed up and back. That's the best way to describe higher level. But no ego. The ego doesn't exist in it, and it's why I love it up there. No,
it's really interesting. We're going to dive into that in a wee bit more deeper detail, obviously a wee bit later on and stuff. But can we kind of rewind a bit and just talk a wee bit more about your upbringing? Obviously, you mentioned that you were from Motherwell, kind of early life, school, etc. as well.
Aye, so I grew up in Wishaw. Started off in Wishaw and Coltness. Lived in Coltness till I was about the age of 5 or 6, then I moved to a wee scheme in Tinto, and I lived there for the rest of my life until obviously I became an adult and moved out. But I spent the best years of my life in Tinto. That's the nickname for it, obviously. Tinto. So best years of my life were up in the scheme, surrounded with obviously lifelong friends and that kind of stuff, and that's where the chaotic Sean comes to, you know what I mean? I was very, as a kid, believe it or not, when I moved into Tinto, it was a rough area. A lot of young kids, a lot of young men. At that time, that era, there were a lot of knife crime going about. You had obviously your gang fights, and on the first couple of years when I stayed in Tinto, I found it tough. Like, I did get picked on off other boys and all that kind of stuff. It never lasted long.
I can imagine now.
It never lasted long, but I did experience that. But then we were just kids at the time, you know what I mean? We were all 5, 6, 7 years of age. Maturity was, but nobody was mature at that age. But we were all up to no good, you know what I mean? Not a lot of people in the scheme had very much, so we had to basically fend for ourselves, kind of thing. And outside the scheme, we were just a good community. It was a great place to live, you know what I mean?
Yep. And how old are you now, sorry?
I'm 35. Just 35, yeah.
35, right, okay. So I suppose then a question that I've got for you as well, just when you talk about the schemes and the chaos and stuff. See, obviously you're a wee bit older than me. Talking about the kind of Glasgow Ned culture, if you want to say, yeah. Was it a lot more obviously prevalent when you were kind of growing up? Because I feel like even I was like growing up, and obviously I didn't grow up in like necessarily a scheme or whatever, but I stayed in Renfrew and rough areas obviously everywhere and that as well. But I feel like there was like kid on bams compared to like some of the people that in some of the stories that you obviously heard like beforehand. So that would be my question.
So I would have been the ultimate bam. Okay. So
that's a good nickname instead of the ultimate bam.
That's what. Listen, we were all just young kids. See, the thing is, like, going back now, all the boys I used to fight with, or we used to fight with, we're all friends now. We're all past it. But back in that era, it was Lacoste trackies, bear gosses, flip back caps.
Aqua scrutum scarves and all that.
Scarves. We had Fitbit trackies with the names on the back. Yeah. We used to... Your scheme, because you never really lived outside your scheme. Like, all your friends were scheme based, and then when you did go out the scheme, you'd be going out the scheme with your group of friends. So we would go on a Saturday, you had the Wishaw market, so we would go down the Wishaw market and we'd work down there. We were working for probably the age of 11. We would go down there on a Saturday, we'd help them set up the stalls, we'd be selling either you'd get into the chip games. So at the time, PlayStation 1, PlayStation 2 were just coming out, so it was like all chip discs. Mm-hmm. We would be in there, we'd be helping them sell the discs, fake DVDs, we'd be selling the DVDs. If you were lucky. 9 times out of 10 you were either in a clothes shop or you were helping the butcher or something like that. But full day down there, you're probably picking up a tenner. But in the wee environments, when you're in there with a group of kids, you would then get another group of kids coming in for another area, okay. And then you would get a Barney in there, so you would end up you get a wee square go or a gang fight. When you started growing up and getting into teenager high school and all that, you would have, like, for instance, you had like Tinto, Coltness, Craig Nuke, Pader, and there were all the schemes, and we all used to fight with each other. There were nothing like, nobody really hated each other. It was just I'm trying to get the vibe of it.
Like a mutual understanding, like you're going there to batter each other, but it's like...
I'll tell you a silly, so we used to fight Canby Sniffing, right? Canby runners used to get pulled, right? Because every time we went up against them, they'd run away, right? But 9 times out of 10...
Shut yourself,
9 times out of 10, scheme warfare was cat and mouse.
Okay.
You would meet up in the park. Listen, everybody was carrying. You would have golf clubs, from baseball bats, golf clubs, to hatchets, to lockbacks. Like, there were no rules.
Hatchets?
There were no rules. Hatchets, meat cleavers, machetes, like, they're everything. Like, in that time, they were, and I'm talking the full of Glasgow and the West at the time. A lot of stabbings, a lot of slashings, but you had no fear. See, as a kid, you never had the fear, and you never had you didn't really know the consequences. Now, through education, way knife crime and how bad it was, you understand the damages that was doing. You know what I mean? And you do see a lot of people walking about like Glasgow, and you had obviously the Mars bars, the slashes on the face, but straight away when you have that, when you see somebody with that, you automatically think they're the badging, but you forget they're actually the victim.
Aye.
You know what I mean? Like,
I know, it's interesting,
they're the
deep note like
victim,
that.
you know what I mean? But
Aye.
when you see somebody with a scar on their face, you automatically, oh, he's dangerous.
Aye,
but
aye.
he's actually the victim. You
That's,
know what I
it's
mean?
interesting the way you put that. I've never really deeped it like that.
But that was either. So we would be going to school holidays, like the summer holidays are coming up, so all the sports centres around at that time used to give the kids free bands, so you used to get into the swimming for nothing, and we would go to the swimming. But when we went to swimming as a group, you'd have kids for Craignook go to the swimming as a group, so we'd be all fine in the swimming, and then the second you go outside, you were on your heels, or they were on their heels, and it just escalated. And then when you started getting like later into high school, 16, 17, that's when knife crime started on the rise, you know what I mean? But at the time, again, you're in a deprived area. A lot of these kids that went down that route were, they're a lot to it. I grew up and I see a lot of the kids are dead, and it's a shame. Like, a lot of the kids I've grew up with are now dead, and it's through suicide, and it's just, it's very difficult to, you really need to have lived to understand it, to see it, you know what I mean? It was probably the best time to be alive. Like, I would never have changed my childhood for anything, you know what I mean?
Yeah, because it's interesting hearing you talk about all this, because whilst obviously the times sound so chaotic and crazy at times, you can see the kind of glisten in your eye and smiling when you're like reminiscing on the days and that as well.
It was days you were out the house at 7, 8 o'clock in the morning, and you weren't coming in, it was dark. But even take away from that era, of the gang culture and the Ned culture, if you want to call it, the BAM culture.
Aye.
The same group of kids were going, in the summer we were going down the Clyde side, we were making tree swings, we were doing the Clyde all day, in and out the water. We were, the wee scheme I stayed in, there were a woman in the scheme, Mrs. Foley, and we never go, 90% of the kids in the scheme never got to experience a holiday. There weren't such things as going abroad. Like, if you were lucky, you might have gone down to Ayr, or you were going up to Burnt Island to the beach. That was your beach holiday for the summer. And Mrs. Foley used to rent buses and take a group of 50 to 100 kids every summer to different destinations. Wow. If it was Burnt Island, Ayr, and that was your get out. But even when we were going away, taking 100 kids for the one wee scheme and put them into Burnt Island.
There's more scraps happening.
It was just where you fit. Was that right?
Yeah.
Where you're into them.
Yeah.
And then this went on for a kid to an early adult. Know what I mean?
And when see, just to rewind that a wee bit back as well, when you talked about obviously there was loads of deaths and suicides and stuff from where you're from. Obviously, I suppose it's hard to like pinpoint it to a certain thing, but do you think it was because of, I don't know, lack of opportunities, or coming from like struggles of being in and around madness, or I don't know? No,
I wouldn't. I struggle with this. I struggle with the why, because I've got if you look at my upbringing, especially from my area, I was actually at a funeral today for a 32-year-old girl for my scheme this morning. And that's why I've got the baby blue. She wanted baby blue on for a funeral. But in my scheme, there are 101 houses, and in my era, all the kids that grew up with me, there've been 11 deaths. So these are all kids that I watch my kids out playing on the day to day, every day they know, on their bikes, scooters. It's a different era. They're going to swing parks now. It's a different era. But these same group of kids, 10%, 11% of that scheme, that population, a full generation has been wiped out. Boys and girls, not all suicides, but 95% has been suicide, and the boys and the girls, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
the why, I don't know.
It's tough, isn't it? Because it's shocking. Like, you see the statistics, obviously, of everybody.
Wishaw's really bad. It's not as bad now, but it was very bad. They're obviously Chrissy's house in Wishaw. And that charity was evolved because of the chaos that was happening around it.
In specific like Wishaw and stuff, and then it's obviously expanded on, right? Okay.
Yeah, so it was, I think it was around 2015, 2016, Wishaw was the highest suicide rate in Europe.
What's that?
In Europe, you know what I mean?
Jesus, man.
The stats in Wishaw is frightening, you know what I mean? I think it's like the third worst place to live in Scotland.
Jeez, I didn't realise this, like, suicide stats and stuff with it as well.
Poverty, I was doing the stats, I think it's like the third worst in Scotland, stats-wise, for like poverty.
Yeah.
But again, a place I would never change to grow up in.
Yeah, no, I understand that as well. So, just so that we're kind of going in like chronological order right up until this very point in time as well. So, you're cutting about, you're getting into madness and stuff. Did you say then that as you started to get a bit older, it became more serious, like the likes of knife crime and stuff? And are you still in high school at this point?
So I was in high school, and I was quite a good kid up to probably, I would say, 13, 14-year-old. And then what happened was I had a wee group of friends and we just started doing daft things. It was like, so an instance, we were in second year, third year of high school, I can't remember the exact time, but we started doing small robberies, but it was like, we weren't ever like robbing, like house breaking or anything like that. It was industrial robbing, but we were breaking into a place in Wishaw, where all the lorries came, and this is how chaotic and dangerous it was at the time to get into the place. So we would go in at night time, and we would cross the railway line to get to it. So you were putting your life in line, crossing a railway line, and then we would sit outside the factory. The Arctic lorry would come up, it would brake, because the Arctic lorry couldn't come up and then take a right turn, and it had to brake stop to then do the turn into the factory. We would wait for the lorry, the air brakes to go on the lorry, would then run under the lorry. The lorry would then, air brakes would go off, and it would start going into the factory.
And are you under the lorry?
We're under the wagon.
What?
And then when we got into the factory, we would run out, and then we would get the flick knives out, we would rip the boxes, and we would steal 9 times out of 10. It was fucking candy and shite you would never... It was just...
like punt or anything?
Like Amazon and that was very... Maybe just coming out at the time, so it was nothing. You weren't getting any goodies. And one night we get locked in the place, and we end up on the roof, and we run up and jumping roof to roof, and one of my friends fell through the roof at the time, and he died that night. He was only 13. But the run up to this is with that culture thing, the run up to that event on the Sunday night, I'm not saying any names, so I don't want to upset anybody, but the wee group of friends, we were there, they all know who we're talking about. The run up to that night, the wee man that passed away that night ran away from home on a Thursday, and we were all guilty of this. So he ran away from home on the Sunday, stayed with one of my friends, but what we used to do this. So I would say to my ma, I'm staying with Kyle or J.G. and Mama thought I was in that place, but realistically we were roaming the streets to 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. We would use the all same alibi each other. And we were up to no good. And so he ran away from home on the Thursday, and then he passed away on the Sunday with all one of my best friend's clothes on. But isn't it, you get older, you realise, like, what did that event do to his mum and his brother at the time and all that kind of stuff, you know what I mean? But that's where the that's the type of environment we were all grew up in, you know what I mean?
And did you say you were 13 when that happened?
I was 30, I think I was in 2nd or 3rd year at high school, so I'd have been 13 at the time.
How do you even, like, how do you even deal with that? Like, I don't know, I'm just trying to think, but like, yeah, that's such a hard thing to see, especially at such a young age.
Young age.
Because you're nowhere near fully developed to even understand something like that happening. And
it's not, see, the thing is, like, out of all the crazy the way, I had a great upbringing, my mum, and that's fantastic, right? I've been very, very blessed, but it's just, I was brought up in a scheme, and even outside the scheme with the friends I had and all that kind of stuff, the wee group of friends we had, like, my first basically friend that committed suicide was a boy, Alan Jackson. He was 11-year-old and it was April's Fool's Day, and we played in the same. I was only primary 6, and we played in the wee school football team together. And all that. I used to walk him to school, and then he would walk. He stayed 5 minutes for the school. So on the way down, I would catch him on the way to school. We used to go into school and play. It was like Chucky. It was called. It was just a ball. There would be 20 kids down the one end of the playground, 20 kids down the other, flinging a ball at each other to catch it. And Alan passed away then, and that was the very first time I ever experienced like death. But I didn't realise at the time that how much that was going to impact my life, like moving forwards, until obviously I'd done the ayahuasca. But we'll talk about that.
Yeah.
But basically, for that, the emotions I felt for that first death, basically simulated through the rest.
And he was 11 when he took his own life.
Yeah.
It's so hard to even comprehend, because obviously suicide in any age is obviously tragic, but for somebody so young, it's like, mate, not even started life yet.
It was massive at the time, and I didn't realise how much it was going to that event was going to affect me.
Yeah, well, obviously then, because then obviously the suicide at 11 and your friend obviously then passing away at 13, like, you're exposed to so much death at such a young age, obviously, as well. So, yeah, so then, leaving kind of school and stuff like that, then, were you then obviously fighting still? You were... So
I started getting into trouble after that event. I started getting into a bit more trouble at school. Mm-hmm. But what we were doing a lot of nonsense. We were doing breaking into factories. We were doing freight trains down in Craignook. So there used to be a slow zone in Craignook, and trains travelling south used to slow down when they were building the Wishaw General Hospital. And trains for the bottom of Craignook to the hospital used to basically slow right down and tug. So we as kids, teenagers, used to go into the tracks, slash the curtains open, go into the freight trains and start unloading all the parcels and that, and fling them all over the railway line at Craignook.
Mate, it just sounds like you're playing like GTA in real life, mate.
And the wee group of friends we've done this with, they'll laugh at this, and then we used to then jump out the train before. We used to see the lights, so we knew that the train was ready to take off. So we'd then jump out the train, and then before the train took off, and then what we would do the rest of the night would be collecting all the parcels, and then we'd be taking them back to my pals' house, opening them up, and again 9 times out of 10 they were shite.
Oh, was that? I was going to say, was that a wee bit better than the sweets and that?
I'll tell you one thing. I think when Motorola mobile phones had just came out, and we never had any SIM cards. And these mobile phones weren't even in the shops yet, they were on the trains. Okay. And we had like 2 each, and we were going into school with 2 mobile phones with no SIM cards.
Couldn't even work them.
Couldn't work them, nothing.
Just flexing them up.
We were cool as fuck with these phones. But that's the type of stuff we've done. But again, it's not till later on in life you say, that is fucking, it's crazy. Like, I couldn't imagine my kids doing that. You know what I mean?
Aye.
But all these stories and all this, like, my life is made me into the person I'm of the day, you know what I mean? When you get that, like, I've not got a quittiness when it comes to the fighting. Mm-hmm. Like, I love that environment and the chaotic side of the fighting side, and I think that's where I get it for, like, all the mad nights, all the fun times, you know what I mean? No,
it's so interesting, because maybe we've had such different upbringings, obviously. Like, I wasn't robbing factories or trains or anything as well, but aye, no, it's crazy. And then how was it then that were you just obviously scrapping on the street all the time and fighting other gangs that you then thought I should actually go into a gym and maybe use this for good? Or?
I did train. I trained at the boxing club. I was training Thai when I was a teenager. I was getting into a lot of fights. I wasn't getting into much fights at school. The occasion time I did get into a fight at school, but I was quite, like, the wee group of, our school was quite neutral. In fact, all the boys ran about with each other in my year of school, so there were very little fights at school. I did start misbehaving at school in high school, probably second year, third year, and then I got into we got into bother with the police when I was third year as well, and I got took out of school, started getting took out of school twice a week with Strathclyde Police and put into a programme. It was like bad behaved boys,
right?
And we used to go to Motherwell Football Club, and we would play football on like a Tuesday and a Thursday. And basically it was like education, like they were trying to basically, I think it was to like stop like with knife crime and gang culture and all that. I think it was trying to eliminate kind of thing like that. But we were then going to Motherwell Football Club. That's where our hub was, and we would be playing football 2 weekends, two afternoons a week. But at the same time, you would have kids for Bells Hill, kids for Hamilton, all coming to this hub.
And playing football against each other. That's a great idea, isn't it? Who the fuck came up with that?
But we were all the same culture, you know what I mean? And then we done that for a year or two, and then we went to football. For the team, we started going to football tournaments and all that kind of stuff. Right. And then the same thing, and after the football tournament, that just dispatched, and then I don't think it ever happened again after that. You know what I mean? I think maybe I was a little bit like.
Let's talk about the ayahuasca, mate. Because I'm really interested in this. See, just so that I've got it all in right order. Then you've obviously left school and you're kind of going in and out of like different boxing gyms, but never obviously any sort of official fights or anything. Is that right?
Yeah, I had a couple of MMA fights. I was undefeated in amateur MMA, and then I took some time off. I fought on. I was 19. I fought on FFC. Paul Craig made his pro debut on that show, and I fought a guy who was well quoted amateur. I think he was 5 or 6-1 at the time. I went in there and I beat him on points. After that show, I think that was in February, and then on that year, I had 2 friends that had passed away in the same weekend. Same again, suicide, and it was
both of them.
Both of them. So one was the Saturday and one was the Monday.
Jesus.
And my problem was I always lived with yesterday's problems. You know what I mean? I dwelled on the past, and I can talk about it now. But 2 years ago, I wouldn't be able to talk about this kind of stuff. And then it was like a roller coaster. Like madness, like 2013, 2014, I had 2 friends passed away. I then got into 2004, I was in a car accident where a woman committed suicide, and I took her life in my car. She was 32 weeks pregnant as well.
Oh my God.
And then at the time, my missus was pregnant with my first daughter, and then on April, Erica was born. And she never survived. So at that, there was so much that happened in the space of that 8 months that totally fried. I was only like 20, I would have been 23, 24 at the time maximum. And I had obviously the suicides growing up through school, left school, a couple of my mates committed suicide when I was 17, 18. Turned 21, 2 very close friends, life friends passed away with suicide. I was involved in a car accident where a woman commits. At the time I didn't understand why, and then I found out after I'd done all the sheets that it was a suicide. And then 6 months after that, my daughter passes away. So I was the type of, I buried everything, emotionally just buried it. I went to work. I was working in the oil and gas industry at the time. I went back to work a week after that event with my daughter, and I basically ran away from my problems. Every time I came back home, I was always looking for an excuse to escape. And I had a good friend in Derek Hoy who got us through a lot of stuff. He worked offshore, but Derek was for a same type of environment and upbringing as I was. The way me and Derek became friends, we worked in a shipyard in Invergordon, and he had just got out of the jail at the time. I didn't know this, but he was asking me where I was from. He was from Edinburgh, and he named a couple of guys that I had knew from the area. They were older gentlemen, but all these guys had one thing in common. They were on the jail. They all had done some serious time. So I knew straight away the only way that I've connected the dots with they two. So Derek was. He was in prison for a long time. He got a life sentence, but when he came out of the jail, he had seen a lot of himself in me, and he had seen obviously with the struggles and that I was going through. So every time I was going offshore, I was bunked up with him, and it was like I just vented to him, and he listened. And he was in that car accident with me. He done CPR on the lady before the ambulance and that came. But after that car crash, he was never the same. And Derek, he passed away in 2018. Started dabbling in, I think it was like diazepam, and then it went on to the heavier stuff. But that was all for that crash. So
is this you, sorry, or
that was my friend Derek?
Derek, sorry, right,
so
okay,
he passed away 2018.
And was it through the likes of what was it overdose or?
Aye, so right. Basically, I don't know what it was like cause of death, but on the build up to his death, he had lost his way because of pharmaceutical drugs, and it was I know it was because of that car crash. You know what I mean? He done CPR on that lady, and his main concern. I was a young boy at the time when I went down to the tear, and he was doing CPR. His main concern was to get me away. He's like, "Sean, go for a walk, get away." He had that protecting in him, and I didn't see all that. But when he passed away, that's when I never had anybody to talk to, and then all my problems just became heavy on me. On the build up to, I was meant to go to Ayahuasca pre-COVID. At this time, I've always went out to work. I've always had I wouldn't say I had massive problems, but I always felt like I always had low mood. I didn't want to go out. It was always a struggle for me to get out, and motivation, never really had it. I would never have went to the gym. At this stage in this 9-year period, I had ballooned up. I was out of shape. I was heavy. I then went to go to Ayahuasca 2000, and then COVID hit. After COVID, I never rebooked to go do it, but one of my friends went and done it. He went and done the first retreat. I stayed at home, never went and done it. Same time, I was working. I was just getting by day to day, but I wasn't addressing. What I said at the start. I was living with yesterday's problem. I would wake up in the morning, and if I thought about my friends, I was thinking about their funerals, the day they passed away, the emotion that tied around that, and then that emotion and that the way I felt. Like every day I woke up, I says, "It's fucking raining outside. I fucking hate the rain. I hate my work. I don't want to go to my work." But if you keep saying that to yourself, all you're doing, you're building that emotion, and that's how you feel.
Yeah.
So I was living with this all the way through, and not a lot of people know this, but in 2020, I tried to take my own life. And at the time we were building my house, and I was in my missus's granddad's house, and I was out on the lash, an old firm match. End up in a boozer, scrapping, get flung out the boozer. I was just being a pure prick, that's all I was. When I couldn't suppress emotion, and when I used to drink, all the emotion used to boil at the tap. I just couldn't control it, and I used to just lash out or be cheeky. I was always looking for somebody to step out of line or somebody to step on my toes. I was probably a horrible human being to be around, especially when it came to alcohol.
Were you like dabbling in other things as well? If you don't mind me asking, just booze?
I've never been one for dabbling or going down the drug routes.
Okay.
Touch wood, because it'd probably saved my life, because if I did probably go down that route, I would have probably became addicted to them, and then, because majority of addiction comes from trauma, you know what I mean? I'm a big believer in that. And then I can remember walking home, and this has got to sound crazy, but I can remember coming to the pub, and I started walking home. I was getting upset, I was greeting, I was speaking to my friends, one friend in common, one friend in particular. I basically walked like, he was side by side with me. I could physically see him for about a mile and a half. I walked from Wishaw to Muir House in the rain, 11, 12 o'clock at night. It was December time. No, sorry, it was about May time. And I had a conversation, full of a drink, miraculous. And I got to Muir House, and I tried to fling myself out in front of a bus. Pure idiotic behaviour. Bus misses me. Driver gets out. What the fuck you doing, you fucking idiot? You drunken bastard and all that. Know what I mean? He's just seen me stumbling along and try to make a shitty attempt. I've then emotion still greeting. Walked down into my missus's gran and papa's. I've walked in right through the living room. Everybody's there. My wee lassie Maya and all that. She's just a baby at the time, 18 months. I've walked in. I've walked back out. We were staying in the loft and up the loft, and I took my belt off over the door, and I've tried to take my life. The last thing I can remember is my wee lassie walking through that room, and when I've tried to struggle, my lights have went out. And then I woke up with my missus and a gran slap my face. So my wee lassie, I don't know what happened in the time for my wee lassie walking through that room door for me passing out to coming back around. But somebody's been alerted, and she saved my life.
Yeah, man.
You know what I mean? And then that's when I needed to I started looking into like the ayahuasca, and I had to make a change. I contacted my friend who had done it. I said, I just need to speak to you. I went to a cafe in Wishaw. Second he seen me and knew there was something up. He said, what's wrong with you? I was chalk white. I was done. I was physically done. And I said to him, he's reached out to Claire. Claire couldn't get me on that retreat that week, but said there were a space the week after. And I went on the retreat the week after, and that first night saved my life. It did. It didn't just change my life, it saved my life, ayahuasca.
Yeah. It's a lot to unpack, obviously, mate. Obviously, I know it's probably the cliche thing, but obviously I'm really sorry to obviously hear that you went through all that, and I know you probably are fucking sick of people saying that to you and that as well, but yeah, it's tough. It's tough.
The thing is, it's listen. I'm not alone in this. You know what I mean? And I understand. And this is a speciality within the ayahuasca, and then tending to yourself and doing the work with yourself. What's happened over the last year? What have I achieved over the last year? What I can see the future. What the future holds for us. The conversations I've had with the BKFC, and it's like. Once upon a time I had a dream to be a professional athlete. I always wanted to do the walk. I wanted to fight in crowds and arenas, and I never ever got that, and I thought it was dead. And I changed my life. I started making goals. I started believing in myself, and I got the right group of people around us, the right guys in the gym, your Sean Clancy's, like. Even over the last year, the conversations me and Sean's 12 years my senior, you know what I mean? He's still a young boy, but
he's like 50, isn't he?
In the head, he's a man of wisdom, and it all comes from the heart with Sean. So when I've had some conversations in the gym with Sean, and he's helped me so much, and that's why I believe I've succeeded so fast in a short period of time, because one, I've got James Doolan, I've got Kieran Smith, I've got Adam Lunstry and Lee, all dealing with the fighter, Sean. I've then got this group of boys in higher level who aren't just dealing with getting me sharper, they're punching me about. We're growing together.
And Sean can punch.
Sean can punch. And but after every practice, everybody's sitting around the corners, and we're talking about life, and we're talking about my experiences, his experiences, and we all help each other. You know what I mean? And that's how where I've evolved over the last year. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But when we do go back to the ayahuasca, when I went over there for the first time, I went alone. And we went. It was a wee retreat centre, the Crystal Inn it was called, and it was in the mountains in Spain, Colombian shaman. So the first day I went in, and I've actually got a picture. I'll show you a picture of when I went and done ayahuasca and where I was at in my life. I was a lot lighter than what I was now, but I wasn't eating right. I was maybe eating one meal a day. I was pitting. Majority was sugar content.
Yep.
I wasn't looking after myself. I went, done ayahuasca, and that first day going into that retreat centre, we sat around a table. There were 20s, 10 guys, 10 women, and I was the very last, and for number one, the number one started to talk, and it was, why are you here? Why are you here? And they just basically started unravelling their life story. But I thought I had a lot of shit. And it wasn't until I was sitting in that retreat centre hearing other people's stories and other people's upbringings and horrific events they went through that I realised, like, you've got no right. Like, what gives you the right to be here or sit in this space with people that have been through unbelievable things I could never have lived with, you know what I mean? But going through that weekend shaped me and changed my mind and outlook in life to having for wanting to die to having a fear of dying. That's what that 4 days done for me. I went for want to die. I went there wanting to die. Didn't want to be here. To having a fear of dying. And the fear of dying is what kind of life would my kids have if I wasn't here? Or my mum, all that kind of stuff, you know what I mean?
Yeah. And it's so interesting hearing you say, obviously, when you went to the retreat, and we'll go into it in a wee bit more detail, but you obviously spoke with a group of people and you were comparing your problems, but I was probably doing similar when you were telling me your problems. So I'm thinking in my head, like, I can't believe I've ever, moaned at something or, been that, but then hearing you say that you feel like you've not got any right to be here, it doesn't need to be, comparable like that, obviously, as well. And then, obviously you've went through, countless traumas, obviously, yourself as well. So, no, it's interesting hearing you say that. And so talking about ayahuasca in specific, right? Because I actually told my pals that obviously you were coming on, and I'd mentioned to them about the kind of ayahuasca thing. I was going to talk to you about it. They'd never heard of it before, which I was actually quite interested in because they puff weed and stuff like that. And, you know what I mean? They're not like pure square or anything. So for anybody that doesn't know, it's like a psychedelic drug. Is that correct?
Yeah. So it's a psychedelic drug that it's for the Amazon rainforest. It's a. I'll break into simple terms. It's a leaf and a vine, and basically these two are not compatible. They actually grow in different parts of the rainforest.
Okay.
So through the Indonesian people, they through thousands of years they've took this vine and they've took this bush and they've cooked it and they've come up with this potion, and it's spiritual. And there are multiple documentaries over YouTube, but it's the drug itself. I don't like to call it a drug. I call it a medicine. So when you hear me, I call it medicine because it is. It's medicine. It's medicine for the soul, the mind, and how they cook it. The Colombian shaman, or the Indonesian people, if it's Peruvian, Brazilian, or Colombian. They've all got different ways of how they brew it, and it all tastes different depending on what part of the Amazon you go to. But it basically comes out of the Amazon rainforest, and it is a psychedelic.
How are you consuming it? Sorry.
So it's a potion. It's a medicine. It's a liquid. So I'll tell you basically the first night in the retreat.
Yeah,
so
go.
On the first night, after we'd done a sharing circle, we went up to the Mamoka, it was called. It was a big tent, and it was, I had not seen the shaman at this point, and before we went into the Mamoka, they asked us to say an intention. Now, at this point, I had never done an intention in my life, right? I wasn't ever into that realm, like meditation, like didn't know the power of it. So they said, take your shoes off, stand in the earth, have your time, take the breath, close your eyes, have an intention. Don't say your intention out loud, don't talk about your intention, just have it internally. So I was shiting myself. I was feared because I've never been massive on drugs. Listen, I have took recreational drugs, raves, all that kind of stuff, but I've never been like, when it come to psychedelics, at this point I'd never took a psychedelic, and I had never really tripped or have that experience, outer body experience.
It's not as if you're like pure charging off a gear, it's something completely different. Yeah,
and when you Google ayahuasca and Google how potent ayahuasca is, the Google AI, it breaks it down, and when I read it, it says it's like 15 or 16 times more potent than heroin, and I was like, fucking hell, you know what I mean?
What the fuck is about to happen here?
All this was running through my head. I said, I've took my flip-flops off, I've went away for the group, I've said my intention. My intention was to find inner peace. That's what it was called, inner peace. I want to find peace with myself. I went into the Mamoka. We've all sat around the Mamoka. The girls and the Carlo, the gent, had said a few words. The shaman had come in this time. But when this guy came in, he was Colombian. Taita, his name is. When he came in, there was just a presence he brought with him. Like, I just knew it was different. Like, I got this like gut feeling, and it was like, it was nerves, it was fear. And he sat down and he like just looked around the tent and the Mamoka, and he started speaking. Obviously nobody understood him because he was speaking in Portuguese or Spanish. And then one of the girls, Amy, had stood up, went to one of the girls, had gave her a message, but when she gave her a message, I was watching her facial expressions, and she broke. And then he started talking, but when he started talking, he started looking up all the guys, because the women are at one part of the Mamoka, the guys are at the other. And he started looking up all the guys, and he started speaking. And straight away, I was fucking shitting myself, and I was like, oh no man, what's happening? What's he saying? And I just knew, like, the next step after this, we were going into the ceremony. So he stopped speaking. I had been just looking down at the mat at the time. As I've been looking down, I've just seen a pair of knees come in, and Amy come in, and she said, her words for me, and nobody knows what my intention was, I never tell anybody. And Amy came in, and she grabbed my hand, she says, Taita says you're going to find peace tonight.
What?
So straight away,
and nobody knew? Like,
nobody knew. I said this intention in myself, right?
Uh-huh.
Like, this is how powerful this stuff is. Wait there, this is why I'm going to tell you the first night,
yeah,
right?
Yeah, of course, yeah.
And then I'll tell you the first night when we're returning home. So after she said that to me, Mars completely went, right? Because I knew what I was like on the drink. I can't suppress emotion. I knew I was going to be taking one of the most potent drugs that's ever been on earth, and it was been here for thousands of years. So I was second to take the medicine. So he brings the medicine in, he blesses it, he says his prayer or whatever it is. He then puts in a shot glass. He calls the first guy up, and then one by one you take the medicine, you go back down. And then, so I went up, took the medicine, went back down. Everybody else started to go. But at the start it was like, I just felt like a warmth. And at the time the candles and that was on. So when the last lady took the medicine, Amy said a few words. There were a big candle in the middle, and she just went up to the candle and she said, safe journey. And she blows the candle out and you're in pitch darkness.
What?
It's total darkness. You can hear the animals outside, like the birds or the cockroaches or the creaking you hear when you're in the mountains in Spain. And you're in this dark void for about an hour. But it takes about 40 minutes, 30 to 40. You lose track of time, but I'd imagine it takes about 30 to 40 minutes for the medicine to start kicking in. But what I was, it gave me like a hot rush, right? Like the way, like if I was at a rave and I took a knee, like that rush. So I knew that something was coming on. I had then started getting geometrics, small geometrics, and it felt like the room lit up. So I've straight away, I'm getting dead hot, my face is getting hot, I'm getting geometrics, I'm getting this feeling of, oh, this is amazing, I feel like dead light, I'm feeling dead happy, all these happy emotions. I've then jumped up, grabbed the sleeping bag, grabbed a cup of pulleys, got comfy into the fetal position, and then I started getting a wee bit restless, but it was just like mad geometrics I was getting, and I was going into like just falling into this space of, it was calmness, peace, the emotion, the feeling of love. It was like I was getting cradled. That's what I felt like. I was just getting cradled, and it was like all this love. And then I don't know why I opened my eyes, but I had like something was spinning in my head, and it says, "Look, just open your eyes." And I opened my eyes, and I had like an entity in the corner, and it was like a strobe light effect. It basically jumped from A to B dead fast. And that's like the noise I got in the head. And I shut my eyes, I said, what's that? What the fuck was that out there, right? And it was like my mind just straight away saying, don't look at that, don't look at that. And then I've opened my eyes to look again, but when I looked again, it was closer, and it was going, and it was like, have you ever seen Insidious?
Aye.
See the guy when, I don't know if it's because I've seen Insidious before I went, and this is why the entity came, but the guy, the shadow with the big long claws, it was that was the entity I was getting. And then I shut my eyes again, and I started to panic, and I was like, I tried to tell myself, Sean, you're taking a bad one. Right?
Imagine.
That's what I said, you're taking a bad one. Think of happy thoughts. Opened my eyes again, but it was right in my face. But at this time, it was like a big massive head, and see, like Ace Ventura, see the bit with the doing the bongo drums, and he's got these big, right, it was like, that was the face I was getting. But it was screaming in my face, and it was like strobe light effect. It was like crashing cymbals. It was blacks. It was golds. It was whites, and it was just putting so much pressure on me. But at the back of that, I seen Alan, my very first friend, and it was me lying. It took me right back to a place that I had forgot about. The night Alan had passed away, I shared a room with my brother, and it was a set of bunk beds. We had a double bed at the bottom and a single bed at the top, and I had the double bed because I was the oldest. But we had a old boiler cupboard, and I used to sleep. This is how, back then, this is how much a kid I was. I used to sleep at the opposite side of the boiler cupboard because I used to be scared, because when the heating went on, it used to make a noise, and I used to think somebody was in the cupboard.
Okay.
So it was reminding me all these emotions and how sleeping in this bed. And it took me to this, I was a kid, and I can remember, I had forgot about this until I done the ayahuasca, but it came back and it was me lying in my bed, crying, just didn't understand why Alan had died. And I was just lying in my bed, crying, one night, and it was the night he died, and I just didn't understand. And it was then through I was basically, at that time, I was under the influence of the medicine. I had went back to that kid as the man I'm of the day, and it was like I was trying to talk to that kid through experiences that I had, because at that stage in my life I didn't know what suicide was, and I didn't understand why that a 11-year-old kid had just went to heaven. That's all I get told, that's all we all get told, and I didn't understand that. And it was like me going back as an adult through all my life experiences to nurture this kid and sit with this kid and explain to him, and all I was saying to him was, everything's got to be alright, everything's got to be alright. And then after that I went into like a loop, it's called. So this loop was me, it was like depression, and it was, I felt under the influence of the ayahuasca, I have never felt pressure or heaviness like this in all my life. And it was like I was sunk into this bed, and I had this entity screaming in my face, and it was like it was like godly. It was the noise that was screaming, it was like thunder going off. That's how I explained it. It was like how loud thunder was, and it was screaming the word depressed. You've never been depressed. This is depression. And when he said this is depression, or whenever that said this is depression, I get this heaviness, and then I started vomiting, like really, really bad vomiting. And I was terrified of this entity. I was terrified of it, and I was in this loop with it. And when I was in this loop, I would be sick, and then I'd fall back into this dream state. And I was driving, this is the dream state, I was driving my van, and it was showing the limit. I was basically limiting my van to maximum speed, and I was flying. Everything was just going by dead fast. And I was pulling up into the drive to the house, and my kids were at the window. And when I drive into the house after work, my kids used to go up to the window, Dad, dead excited. And I used to go in, and they used to greet me at the front door. They still do it to this day, and they cuddle me, and it's epic. But on this day, I went in through the front door. The kids have all tried to cuddle me, and I've pushed them to the side. I've then went into the kitchen, and I'm basically observing all this, my actions. I've started writing down in the kitchen, but I do a lot of my work in the kitchen on the table. Like I'll do like my invoices, my quotes and all that on the kitchen table. And I was doing that, so I'm thinking to myself, like, that's you doing that. I was just trying to understand, what is this showing me here? I've then went through, and I was lying on the couch on my phone, and my wee boy was trying to interact with me, and I just kept pushing the kids, and I never do this, but I just kept pushing the kids away, and I didn't understand why I was doing this under the influence of medicine. But I was on my phone, but it showed me an angle of Hudson standing, and his bottom lip was trembling, because it just showed me lying on the phone, glued to my phone, the kids getting upset, I'm not interacting with them. Up the stair, I used to do bath time, and all that kind of stuff before they go to bed. I wasn't present at that time. I was lying on the floor, and I was like, why am I not doing this stuff? And then when they went to bed, it was like everything was dark, and then I was still sitting in the living room, and then the sun came up, seen it through the thingy, but I then walked out into the kitchen, all the papers on the table. I've walked out the back. At the back of the house, it was a forestry. I've walked out, there were no gates or no fencing up, so I just walked right into the forest, took a right, and I hanged myself. I died. When I hanged myself under the influence of the medicine, I've came right back out, like, it's like a nightmare. You've just woke up, took the breath, straight away I started being sick. And I mean, it was like, the way my body, it was, the only way I can describe it was like the worst case of food poisoning. I had a fever, I was sweating, I was freezing, I was being very, very sick. When I was being sick, this wee entity that was massive was in the bucket, and it was jumping out at me. So I was shutting my eyes, but I was still being sick, and then I was starting to drift away back into the under the influence of medicine. And it went into this loop, the exact same thing over and over again. But when I've been in, the very first time when I was in the van, and I was like, fucking slow down, the speedometer done that in like half. And I says, like, understand this, like, I need to make change. It's like, it's allowing me to make changes.
Okay.
So I've then slowed the van down, I've drove up, and I know what's coming, because like your consciousness, you know what's coming, right? So I knew I was going to drive up, the kids I've got to cuddle their wains, I'm going to tell the wains I love them, I'm going to prevent the end result of me killing myself. So I've slowed the van down, I went to cuddle the wains, but I walked through them, and I'm shouting, what you doing? So they're like two of me in this state, and I get into the kitchen. So I went into the kitchen, but instead of me, the first time I didn't know what I was writing. So then the second loop, it showed me writing down my suicide note, but I was reading my own suicide note. And straight away it was, how does that feel? And I was getting the emotions under the influence of the medicine and how that felt. And it was horrific. And at the same time I was having this entity screaming at me, depression, you've never been depressed. And I just felt this, it was awful, it was horrible. And I just went numb, because it made me watch what was coming. But because I changed the van at the front, it would add something in at the end. So when I walked out the back door, and I took a right. My kids and my partner were standing in a tree, and I just couldn't stop myself walking to this tree, but when I'm walking to this tree, I can hear them screaming and I can feel their emotion, and it was the feeling of emotion and the feeling of them screaming, how would that feel if you had done this act? And I killed myself in front of them, and I came back out that after I killed myself, it's the same thing. I come right out a nightmare, started being sick again, and then I've basically forced myself not to go back in. I was tossing and turning, I was on all fours, I was crying, I was screaming, I was being sick, I was fighting against it. And one thing they tell you not to do is fight against it, go with it. But going into that first retreat and experience that first, that opening, see when I opened my eyes and I seen that entity, I fought against it. I didn't want to look at it, I didn't want to see it. I shut my eyes, what the fuck was that? And I never let it go. I never just says, right, what is this? Let's explore it. I fought against it, and when you fight against it, it's your ego. And I went through that, and I've maybe been in under it for 2 or 3 hours. I've then went outside, and I was broke at the time because the only thing that was in my mind was Alan, and I'd forgot about it, and I'd forgot about I'd buried it that, it was 20 years ago. Mm-hmm. I'd forgot all about it, and I was sitting outside, and Claire and Carlo and all they came out, and these people these medicine workers are amazing. They're amazing human beings, and it's like therapy. They were asking me how I felt, what did I see, and I was telling them. And at that time, I was like, I don't even want to live. I don't want to be here. Like, I've came here to help myself, and I want to end it now. Like, that's how bad it was. That's how fucking intense it was. Like, yous have ruined me. That's what I was saying to them. Like, yous have ruined me. I'm suicidal. Like, yous have done it. And Claire's like, I think you should go in and take another cup. And I was like, no fuck it. This is the way. Like, me and you're Claire, and I was like, no fucking way. I'm not a fucking chance I'm doing that. I said, are you crazy? I said, I'm no fucking. You're trying to kill me. So I've then left because I'm like, they're after fucking heat. Right? And I just didn't understand. But I went outside, and I was under the stars, and for one of the first times in my life, I was at peace, and I was calm, and I was thinking about like the past and Alan, and I was under all these stars, and it was just beautiful. And I went back up, and I asked myself the question, why are you here? Like, why did you come here? You've came here because you're no well, Sean. You need help, and this is your last chance. I had believed this. If this never helped me, nothing would help me. And I went back in. I said to Claire, I'll have another cup. I've took the other cup, and this time it was like pure gentleness. I got that mad comfort, and I went into, like, I fell asleep, but I went into a dream state. There were no more sickness, it wasn't hard, it was just, I went into this dream state, and it was, my papa was dying at the time, and I went into my grand's living room. He was in a hospital bed, he was bedbound, and when I went, and I left him on the Thursday morning, or the Wednesday morning, sorry, before I went to Ayahuasca, and he was talking to us, he was fine, he was, I'll see you, got to be here when I get home, Papa, I'll see you when I get home, bang on. But on that first night of the retreat, when I walked into my grand's, it had totally changed. His face expression, everything was just different, and I just knew what was coming. I knew it was ending. But me walking into my grand's living room, I was a kid, right? I was this like toddler, and I've climbed up onto my papa's bed, and I'm holding his horn, and we're basically lying face to face, and his face is totally different, and it's one thing I can never get out of my head, like his face in that ceremony. And he was just saying, I'm fucked, son. That's what he was saying, I'm fucked, son. I'm ready to go. And I was like, everything's got to be alright, Papa, everything's got to be alright. It's just as a kid, and he passes away. But that was the first night. After he passed away, I fell asleep. I woke up the next morning, and I'm like, what the fuck went on there? And I wanted to go home. I phoned my pal Ben. I says, mate, you need to get me a flight home. I'm coming. I can't do that for another 2 nights. It was the worst thing I've ever had to deal with in my life, and I didn't understand the benefits I was going to get from it. I've then went into the sharing circle the next day, tell everybody my experiences. I wanted to get home. I've reached out to everybody to get me a flight home. We never had Wi-Fi, we never had internet up there. You could go onto your WhatsApp if you went into the house, but it wouldn't allow you to go. The internet wasn't good enough to go into like Google or Facebook or Instagram.
Just pure secluded.
Just secluded.
Yeah.
So you could get a WhatsApp, even difficult to FaceTime. So I was WhatsApp my fiance, was WhatsApp my mum. Get me a flight home, I need to come home, please get me home. And credit to my mum and that, they're like, no, you're staying. You know what I mean? I've been in, I've done the other 2 ceremonies, they were nothing compared to the first night. But this is with the power of the ayahuasca, this is what hooked me. The day I get home the Monday, and I flew from Spain right to Wishaw. Right to Glasgow, back to Wishaw, and I knew my papa was dying. I went into my gran's and walked into the living room, and the face I seen on the medicine was the face it was lying there on. He was sleeping. He never woke up for my last conversation with my papa was before I left, and the face he had when I walked in was the same face I seen on that Thursday night with the medicine, and. I phoned my mum, I said, you just got need to come up here, my papa's got to pass away. And my mum was like, calm down, no, he's no. I says, Mum, I've seen this, he's got to pass away. So my mum, my stepdad comes up, my brother comes round, we're all sitting. I said, I knew, I just had this feeling that this was his last time. I spoke to Claire, I got a blessing for an ayahuasca, and that's what I wear to a fight. You'll see it when I fight, it's the ayahuasca vine. The shaman had made it for us and he blessed it before I went home. And I spoke to Claire when I go home and she spoke to Taita, and he says, put the necklace on your grandfather. He says it'll help for like the passages and like all that kind of stuff. So I done it, I put the necklace on my papa, and I said to my gran, it was about 11:15, I said to my gran, I says, listen, I'm got to go down the road, I'm got to get a shower, I'm got to stay with you tonight. That's alright son, you don't need to, no listen, I'm coming to stay with you. I've stood up, I held my papa's hand, and I forgot I'd done this in the medicine. I've bent down, I've kissed him in the head, and when I went to stand up, he takes his last breath and dies. Exactly the same way he showed me on the first night in the medicine.
What?
You know what I mean? And that's gospel, that's why I went back, and I think that's why I believe in the stuff that much, and the stuff it does show me, I've acted on it and I've addressed, you know what I mean?
Could see, obviously, everything that you've spoke about, there's probably so many people that are maybe obviously more closed-minded and have never experienced something like this, so they would say it's all airy-fairy and try and shit on it a bit, but that is just living proof that, like, there's more to life than just we're here for no reason, like... Aye, it's so powerful. And then going back as well to when you were talking about the entity and stuff, what I realised was, whilst it was such a horrendous time, obviously during it, when you were going through the experience, it was also trying to kind of help you in the same way.
I'll tell you, so see the entity, so that entity was with me every ceremony. So I've done 6 ayahuasca ceremonies, I've done 2 retreats, 6 ceremonies. And in between the 2 retreats, I went and done Bufo. I went to Ireland and done Bufo, 5-AMO DMT. That's the toad, they call it. Mike Tyson talks a lot about it.
A dimethyltryptamine.
Yeah, so I went to Ireland and done that. So I done the ayahuasca retreat. 2 months later, I went and done the toad. 2 months later, I went back to do ayahuasca. When I done the toad, that's a smoke, so I've inhaled that, I fell back, you lose everything. The first thing that came was ringing the bells, and the entity was there, it was just me and him in this space, and straight away I freaked out, but I didn't know what I'd done. I was just in a cloud of white, I thought I died, that's what I physically thought I died, and I was saying, what the fuck have you just done to yourself, you stupid cunt, that's what I was saying, you've passed away.
Yeah.
And I didn't know, I was in the cradle position for 15 minutes, crying, sobbing my heart out, and I have no regulation yet. I woke up and my friend Gary, who I met in ayahuasca, went with me to do it, and he says, and I've never heard anybody break their heart like that in my life. And I was obviously needing that. And then when I went back and done ayahuasca, I was scared for this entity to come back. And I said that, I says, I've got a mad fear of this entity. And at the time I had done a bit of research. They're called jesters, they're all different names for them. And they're shamans paint portraits in their books about them, and their faces and things you see, and they've all got meaning. And I just couldn't find this entity. And Emma said to me before, she says, if it comes up, why don't you just ask it, who are you? And I done that when I went into the first ceremony, ayahuasca on the second retreat. It showed itself, and I asked, who are you? And the second I asked who you were, it unveiled itself, and it was me. But it wasn't me as who I'm are now. It was me on my deathbed, or as close to my deathbed as I could imagine. I was an old wrinkly old man, and I was sitting on a rocking chair, and I was unhappy. I was unhappy, and there were hundreds of pictures around us, and all these photos were loved ones and all that kind of stuff, and I wasn't in any of the pictures. And it showed me, he showed me a vision, a wedding day, and it was my daughter's wedding day. She was older at the time, and I was like Jack the Lad in this wedding day. I don't know how she's getting all dolled up, and I'm taking her to the wedding, and I'm trying to interact with her, and I wasn't getting anything back. And then down the stair, everybody's in the living room, in the kitchen, and it's all weird because everybody was older and this vision, and I was trying to interact with everybody, and it was just if I wasn't there, but I didn't understand it. And the wedding car, but I was sitting in the middle between my daughter and my missus's father, and I was like, why the fuck's it so tight in here? And it wasn't until I get in the church and I walked down the aisle. I was walking her down the aisle, and I looked about and everybody was crying, and I said, why isn't nobody happy? And I stopped, and as I stopped, I walked by us, and it was my missus's dad was walking my daughter down the aisle, and it was a recollection of me no being there and no present, and it was the emotion of, and I knew straight away I had killed myself. That's what, but I knew I had done it, and it was like me living should have been the happiest day of my life. With the power of being there. And that first night, if I asked that entity who you were, it'd have showed me an unhappy old man, but with memories surrounded him, where there were no memories of me included, because I had done an act on myself. It's hard to explain. I can't even believe I'm fucking so emotional about this.
No, mate, you've explained it like amazingly to obviously somebody that's never done something like that. Just I think for somebody that obviously hasn't, like, it's insane to hear the amount of detail when you're going through this and you just drink this thing, but it's so specific, like taking you back to the first friend that passed away and showing you all these different scenarios. It's fascinating.
That first suicide or that first death, and the emotions as a kid, as a 10, 11-year-old kid, that emotion stayed with me and still stays with me to this day when I hear somebody passing away that I know, or that it's exact same, and that's what it was showing me. It was showing me this is where this was the problem. This has always been the problem. That very first time's always been the problem, and I thought it was the other my other two friends when we were 20, 21. Like that was that time of the in my life was like the worst time in my life ever, and I always reflect back to I've got problems because of that.
Yeah.
When I never had problems, I had trauma. I just never dealt with it right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And when I go back and I say like they're not just me, like that there are people over Glasgow and the West that have grew up in similar situations and scenarios, and scheme boys and scheme lassies that have went through similar types of trauma and suicides, especially suicides in Glasgow and the West, and they're either drugs, alcohol, drugs, or depressed in that because of trauma, because of lifetime trauma.
Yeah, and obviously just when you were talking there and you said like I can't believe I'm getting so emotional about this as well, but like, I think that's why so many people love you, mate, because you're living embodiment that you can get better and you can change your life around. And mate, you've been through so many, crazy times and hardship, but you're so open about speaking about it and trying to raise awareness about it as well. So you never need to say, like, I can't believe I'm getting emotional or apologise or anything like that, because I think that's why people, look up to you so much, mate, and I mean that.
No, I appreciate that. That's one of the biggest things over the last 6 months especially is listen, I know this isn't forever what I'm doing, and I just got into the gym and started fighting because I had an ambition of getting fit and doing this for my kids' sake, and so they have the belief system like nothing's impossible. Like if they have a dream or a goal, it's achievable through hard work and dedication, but through joining a higher level and getting around the kids like Sean Clancy and all that kind of stuff, and seeing that the achievable is just down to the graft. And now I've got myself in a position where when I went into BKFC, a British title fight or a European title fight was so far away. We're probably 1 or 2 fights away from that, and now I'm probably 3 or 4 fights away from becoming or challenging for a world title. All I need to do is show up to the gym, put in the graft, and keep winning fights. And I believe I can do that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And if I can do that, then anybody can.
Yeah, no, it's amazing, and obviously, mate, I could honestly sit here and speak to you for absolutely hours, and I'll ask you about the BKFC obviously as well, but just genuinely thank you so much, obviously, for like opening up and telling me the stories, and it was, really emotional. And I like a couple of years ago, I had my own kind of mental health struggles as well, and there was a point where I didn't think I was going to be here in like a couple of years and stuff as well, but to hear you talk about your experiences and stuff, I just want you to know that you're proper inspirational, mate. I mean that, like, to see everything that you're doing and, everything that you've been through, but to see you here strong and, mate, exactly what you just touched on there, the fact that you're in BKFC, mate, like...
I know, it's huge.
It's crazy, mate. From where you were, mate, to where you're at now is... It's amazing, mate.
Aye, I've done it all in a year. I've done it in a year. Listen, I had years of experience. Like I've trained with the best guys in the country, with James Doolan, with the Sean Clancy's. I've been in the gyms with the top level guys, not consistently, but for a long period of time. So I have got a skill set, but I've got myself a platform, and I've excelled through taking good fights. I've never shied away from a fight. I always want to fight better. I always want to challenge myself, and through me doing that and living on that path, if you want to say, then that's why I blew up the way I blew up, because I just want to test myself against the best guys in the world. I want to see where I stand in the world of BKFC. It's the rawest form of fighting. There's no protection. It's a gum shield, a pair of shorts, and what God gave you.
Your fist. Well, let's talk about that then as well, right? And being a wee bit more specific about the actual bare knuckle aspect, right? Because for somebody that doesn't fight bare knuckle, right, and I'm sure everybody that watches it are probably looking at it like, mate, even I love fighting, right? I love watching it. I love UFC. I actually find the BKFC at times like tough to watch just because of how gruesome it is. It's so violent, and you hear every punch connect, and this is going to be, you've probably been asked this a million times, right? But what does it feel like actual getting are you that just full of adrenaline? Because it's such a difference between getting punched with big padded boxing gloves, obviously, compared to like just your fist, mate.
See, the biggest difference is when you get punched with a boxing glove, it's like a shot. It shocks the brain. It's made a dud. You know what I mean? You don't really. You do get cut in pro boxing, but like amateur boxing with the size of the gloves, all that kind of stuff, you don't really. The only way you would face a cut is if majority of times you head clash. Very rarely you get a cut for a boxing glove, unless you're pro. A lot of pros, you obviously do get cut up because of the weird glove. MMA is the same with elbows, but in bare knuckle, the second you tag somebody with a 20-30% shot, the likelihood, because like your cheek and your skin, it cuts, it just slices. You physically, you feel the dud is like, you feel it's like bone on bone. It's like if you... It's the exact same feeling as getting hit with a bit of wood. that's the best.
Not many people have had that feeling, man.
Like,
I understand what you're trying to say.
Hot,
Yeah.
hot with a bit of wood or that kind of stuff, it's that you get that ting and that dud, and it's the same when you get hit with that knuckle because of the way that the wrists are wrapped. That's my experience of getting hit with a bare fist. You also feel the cut. You do feel like the cut opening up. But when somebody punches you in a cut, it's an electrical current. That's what it feels like. It's more than, it's not a sting. It's like a zap. You know what I mean?
It's just made me wince even thinking about it. See when you see like people's faces, obviously after the fights, man. Like some people are mashed up, mate. Mashed up.
Hematomas, bruising straight away, broke nose, broke jaws, cuts. Stitches.
Oh, it's mental. And just quickly then, how did the first BKFC fight come about then? Did they get in touch with you? Or?
So, going back to Impact 1, I've always been known because of obviously the football scene and all that kind of stuff,
yep.
and malt branding and as a scrapper. I've always liked like to fight. I've always loved it.
Hence why I took the Celtic side down behind you.
So
I've
always loved like just the adrenaline of fighting, and I don't want to say the ego, but it's man versus man in it. It's like one must fall, you know what I mean? So I've always loved the challenge because it's you against another guy. When I fight, it's me against me, and when I was actually in the Barbers when the first fight came about, I get asked, why don't you do bare knuckle? There's a bare knuckle show coming to Scotland. I wasn't interested in it because I had done ayahuasca and I was a Zen guy.
You're chilled out, man. You're mad stoner.
I was wanting to put more time into my kids, and they were doing judo and all at the time, and just try to help them flourish. And I was like at the backbone. I'd never thought of competing or going back. But the idea of me getting back in the gym and training for my kids, I wanted to be healthier all round. So the idea of me going back to the gym, and I was doing pad sessions with one of my pals, Jake Murray, who's a professional boxing coach. So I was doing pad sessions and working on my fitness for that first fight. And I get asked, and then one of my close friends, Tam Collins, his sister passed away, and I was at his wee sister's funeral. And she was another lassie who just had a big massive heart for the community. And when she passed away, I was on the phone to Tam, and we were just talking about Zoe, and I tell him about the bare knuckle. And he's always been the thorn in my side. I like to talk. Every time I've been in shit, or every time I've been doing that fucking path, my phone would go and it'd be Tam Collins. What are you up to? What are you doing? Like he was always on my case, right? He was always looking at. All he was doing was looking after me, right? And I spoke to him, and he had just buried his sister, and he said to me, "Why are you not doing this? Like you've got this. This is your thing." He says, "Any MMA boxing," he says, "bare knuckle is you. This is where you'll do well here." And coming off the phone to him. And obviously with his sister passing away and what that kid went through, like I had no excuses not to go there, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And that full camp was revolved around, it was hard just getting into shape, getting fit, getting in contact with James Doolan, going up to higher level. First time I went back to higher level was a Friday night sparring session. I had done an hour way. I wasn't fit. I was about 6-7 weeks out for this fight. I wasn't physically fit. I'd done 4 or 5 rounds on the pads with James Doolan just to assess where I was at.
Is this before the first BKFC fight?
This was before the Impact show.
Yeah, right. Okay.
And he put me in sparring. And the first, it was Big Ross Cooper. It was Big Ross Cooper I sparred with first. And I done all right. And I knew Ross had done MMA fights and all that, and I was like, right, okay, right, he does MMA, he's all right, like, you done well there. And then I get Sean Clancy. And I know Sean's dad well, right? I used to train. That's the mad thing with me and Sean is like I was probably Sean's age when I trained with Sean's dad.
Right, okay.
Right, and Sean's dad was probably my age when
It's a cool full circle moment, aye.
So I knew the kid was talented. I knew he was a big boy. But I only had one fighting style. I just knew how to fight. So I've tried to put it on him, and I was just getting pinged about. I was getting fucking pinged about. But it's not that getting pinged about half Clancy's. The boy hits like a fucking train, right? He's just big. He's just a big lad, right? And at the end of that 5-minute round, 4-minute round, I was blowing up my 2 rounds. I was blowing up my arse, and then Doolin puts me with Kai Sweeney, 17-year-old, next level. This kid's gone places. This wee cunt fucking annihilates me, right? 17-year-old, right? I think he'd helped me with 17 before we started sparring, right?
Just to get it in
I'm
there.
17 by the way, right? And then he leathers me. He fucking leathers me. And we done 5 or 6 rounds, but at the end of it, I was purpled face, and I was like, but it gave me so much confidence, and I was like, I need to be here. This is where I need to be.
Just felt right.
I just felt right, and that was, and then I done my full camp there, went in. John Ferguson. I knew beating John Ferguson I was getting into the BKFC. That's why I fought John Ferguson. I knew the only way I was going to fight a bare knuckle fight outside of the BKFC is if I could get an in, because I know it's very hard. It's probably harder now to get into the BKFC, and it's got to be over the next year or two. It's got to be very hard to get in. It's blowing up. You've got the guys like Darren Till and all that coming into the scene. It's big names. So I think I got into it right at the right time. I've bet a BKFC veteran in John Ferguson.
Yep.
And then on the night, I've went and met the BKFC president at the time, and he says, we've got Joe Lister, who I'd already knew about because I'd been watching the BKFC. Mm-hmm. Straight away, I says, I went into that fight with a broke hand. I've got a scan on Tuesday. Let me see what my scan's got about, and then I'll phone you on Thursday. His words were me straight away saying, you've doubt already, it was something wild like that. So that gave me the kit, like who the fuck, I'm not shy away for anybody. So I went and get the scan, and then I put it on him straight away saying Joe Lister, but he had backtracked at this time. That I think Joe had another opponent, or and I basically pushed on that and got Mark to push on it. No, you've told me the Joe Lister fight, I want the Joe Lister, because this kid he's a hot prospect. Everybody was talking about him. He's exactly the fight I wanted in there. A big name, young guy, talented, very, very talented, very explosive. Another guy that hits like a fucking train. And I managed to get the fight, done the camp, went in. Obviously the Joe Lister fight was epic. And then I got the win in Manchester.
And on your debut?
On my debut, and it blew up.
That's absolutely mental, and I've got that here obviously against Joe Lister, and the fact it's just your debut, and when you're talking there as well, you're choking for this fight, you've just got no fear about you with it.
It was the same when I got the Hodgson fight.
Yeah, I've got this series as well, yeah.
Like at the time, I got offered the Danny Mitchell fight, who was a UFC veteran at the time, right?
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I was like, I used to watch Danny in the UFC when I was a kid, when I was a martial artist.
Yeah, I know him, yeah.
And I was like, of course I want to fight him. That's an epic fight. That is like, he's class. But Danny just couldn't make the dates, or I just don't know if it was getting spoken about, if it wasn't. And then I got offered the Hodgson fight, fell through. He was meant to fight in December, and that fell through. And I knew Matty was in line, or around line, for a title fight. He was 3-1 in the BKFC. The only guy to beat him was Connor Cook, who was a champion at the time, and it went the distance. And Matty had knocked out Danny Moyer, who was, I think at the time, was ranked number 3, and Hodgson knocked him out in the second round, out cold. So when that fight started with Matty Hodgson, I jumped on it. I was like, fucking, of course I want to fight him. I says, he's next in line for the title. Like, I knew if he beat me, he was getting a title shot. So I says, so if I win him, I get a title shot. So everyone got agreed. So I knew a big win out over Matty Hodgson, I would then get that title shot. Yeah,
and he was coming into the fight with a lot more experience, obviously, in BKFC as well, when you stopped him in the second round.
First round stoppage.
Oh, it was first round, sorry.
Joe Lister was the second round stoppage. First fight, first round, 40-second stoppage. John Ferguson suffered a double jaw break. Joe Lister was the second round. He rapped me twice in the first round.
Yep.
And then second round, I finished in the second round. And then the Hodgson fight, a minute in, hit him with double right, and then the two half-ups and finished that. That was a quick night.
What's going through your mind as soon as you've knocked him out and the fight stops? Is it just pure euphoria?
Aye, it's relief.
Okay.
It is relief. It's like it's just a massive relief. Newcastle was different from Manchester. Manchester, when Joe Lister knocked me down, so I spoke to James Dillon about this, and this is the first time I've spoken about this outside of James Dillon ears. The first time Joe Lister knocked me down, he slipped my jab after a lazy jab out, he slipped it, and I seen it coming, and he flash knockdown. He hit us with everything, and the kid came whack, and it was a legit knockdown. The second knockdown, I've went to level change, and he's jumped in, and my head hit him in the torso, and basically my knee hit the canvas, and then he hit us with a half up. It was an illegal shot, right. But that shot fucking put me out. But this is the mad thing. See, when he hit me with that shot, I went straight into a dream state, and the dream state I was in was me putting my daughter in the ground, like the cord, releasing the cord, and I don't like that went on for maybe a couple of minutes, but it was like seconds. It was obviously seconds because I recovered in the ring,
yeah.
And then I went out and then performed. But after that fight, I can't remember for that knockdown, that second knockdown. I can't remember a thing to being backstage with James Dillon, getting stitched up. And before that, I can remember when I did start coming around, I started getting emotional with James because, and I was crying backstage with James because it was a dream I had just achieved. I had just walked out in an arena filled with thousands of people that I used to dream about as a kid. That I just completed it, and I got a win over a fucking hot prospect. Yeah. But over that, I also had to face adversity in that fight, and through adversity, I got a connection with my daughter, and it was fucking unbelievable. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's special.
It was wild like that. Like Manchester, like, it doesn't matter what I go and do in life, and I'm good friends with Jonah, and I think it's because of the full fight and what that fight gave me. But it doesn't matter where I go or how many fights I keep winning, or if I go out and I lost my next fight, it doesn't matter. I don't care about winning belts, or like, I just want to see how far I can get. But that fight in that Manchester ticked all the boxes for me.
You achieved that feeling.
Achieved everything. Like, my goal, that I fulfilled everything I wanted to fulfill in that space, and now the picture has got bigger, and now the fighting's not about me anymore. It's about how many people or how many nights can I make it happy for the scheme. For instance, they come to me, like, there's so many people travel to that scheme for my fights. All the boys come, and it's epic nights, and they all love it. And that's what I want. I want to bring. I'll go out and I love what I do. I enjoy the fight. But to have a following and have a backing of so many people that's coming out and enjoying that with you, and fulfilling them and bringing happiness to them, is that's what I want to continue doing.
It's purpose. It's purpose, because you're not just viewing it as you're going out and fighting. Like you said, it's bringing joy to people's faces. It's, the stuff that you do when you talk about, obviously, the struggles that you went through, and inspiring people to get better. It's, you're not just a fighter, mate. You're amazing, mate. I really, really mean that, man. Really, really mean that. And what's the kind of future aspirations now, mate? So you're not overly, but obviously you want to go and win belts and stuff, but it's not the be all and end all.
It's not the be all. Listen, I'm not going to sit here and say I'm the best guy in the world and I want to fight this one. It's not my character. Like, I'm not a big talker. I did call Conor Cook out in the ring. It was, but the reason I do want to fight Conor Cook is because I've just beat Matty Hodgson, who in the BKFC is recognised as the number 2 seed. Conor Cook's the number 1 seed. I want to fight the best. I've always said that, and he is the best. He's the best. I believe Conor Cook is one of the best. Just not the best in the UK, but he's one of the best guys in the world.
Okay.
And that's where I want to be. That's the level I want to be at. So I want to fight Conor Cook, and then after that fight, if it goes my way, then I will be looking to fight top 10, top 5 guys in the world.
And is that the Hydro that's coming up then?
So we've been told it's Glasgow.
Okay. Oh, so it's not. That's what I wasn't sure about.
So
Okay.
The BKFC have said they're coming to Glasgow. It's got to be in November. Nothing else at this time has been released. There are no fights. There are no opponents. It will start moving fast. After there are obviously a big show on Saturday with Conor Tierney and Franco. It's probably the biggest fight in BKFC history in the UK.
Is Darren Till and Chalmers fighting on that?
Chalmers, the co-main event. Till again, 185 pounder.
Surely Till's battering Chalmers, do you think?
Listen, you can't rule Chalmers out, man.
I know.
But the thing is, the big... It's the weight for me, you know what I mean? Darren Till is a big 185. Chalmers does fight at 165.
So he's kind of beefed.
First fight at 185, you know what I mean? But Chalmers isn't just a reality TV star. He's a proper boy. He's a fighter.
He can go for it, mate.
He can fight. And listen, I hope he does. I hope he does well, man. I really do. So you've got that in the weekend, and then after that, we're hoping Glasgow gets released, dates gets released, opponents get released, and then we start building that, because I believe the BKFC coming to Glasgow
be mental,
mate. It'll be. I think it does more than just be a great night of combat sports. I think with the right guys on it, the right card, I think we can do a lot with Glasgow itself, especially with the youth and all that kind of stuff, you know what I mean?
Yeah, different things in the community and stuff.
Especially things like podcasts and YouTube nowadays, and the power of it. Like all my kids watch me on YouTube, podcasts, they watch me fighting. All the guys I fight, they watch their fights. Like I walked into my boy's room the other night there, and to see how he was getting on, he had on the telly, had Matty Hodgson and what was the guy's name? It wasn't Chaz Wasserman.
Okay.
Had that fight on.
Okay.
And
doing like deep dive research for his dad and that.
And I was like, what are you watching? He's like, I'm watching the Bare Knuckle, I'm watching Matty Hodgson. But my kids are obsessed with not just me and my career, but who I fought. And see, because some of the stuff they hear about me first terms is on YouTube, is through YouTube. Like, and I'm educating them on who I am through that as well. Because I can't sit and have a conversation with 7, 8 or 9, you know what I mean, or 5-year-old. Yeah. And they're learning about me, and I love it, you know what I mean? And listen, we'll see what the future holds, and if I can get the big fights and become a champion or fight the best guys in the world, or fight in America and all that kind of stuff, I'm ticking boxes that show my kids that anything's achievable, and that's what it means to me.
Yeah, you're definitely doing that, mate. You're an absolute superstar, and I know how many people love you and look up to you, and you're absolutely massive and only continuing to get bigger. Like, you're only doing this over the space of the last year, mate. Like, and you don't want to think too much into the future, but think of what it could get to. But
one fight at a time, brick by brick.
Exactly, that's what I was going to say. Just focus on being in the present moment, because what you're doing right now is you're already achieving all the dreams and goals that you set out for yourself as well. 100%. It's very exciting, mate, and honestly, thank you so much, mate. I was absolutely buzzing to have you on, which you already knew about, man. Mate, see that time I text, right? I was actually in my head as well, because I was like messaging Sean Clancy at the same time, but I was in my head and all, right, text Sean Clancy this and don't text Sean Weir this. And then I've texted you being like, Big Sean Weir coming on my podcast, fucking buzzing. You're like, mate, I'm Sean Weir.
It's funny, but no, listen, I appreciate the time and obviously having me on your platform.
No, don't be daft, mate. It's all good. And obviously, just again, thank you so much. And thank you so much for obviously opening up so much as well. And mate, you'll be helping so many people out there as well. And yeah, just to hear obviously the life that you've lived, but it's amazing to see the position that you're in right now, mate. You're an absolute inspiration. I really mean that, man. Really mean that.
Cheers, mate.
Thank you, boss. Appreciate it, lad. Some man. Yeah, that was incredible, mate. Incredible, honestly, bro.